I'm Sarah Canny, and this is my live Instagram show, Showing Up, Courageous Conversations with Women Who Are Following Their Heart. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. It's a little chilly here in New Hampshire, so we've got the puffy vest on, and trying to stay warm. I am Sarah Canny, and this is my live Instagram show, which is called Showing Up. And I really started this show because I wanted to dive into conversations with women who are following their heart and stepping out into things that are a little bit risky and scary, and doing something that they're passionate about. And that can take so many different shapes for each person. But I think there's a lot of commonalities in the journey. And so there's so much that we can learn from each other's journey. And my hope is that these conversations really empower us to step out in the things that we're passionate about and to follow our own heart. So hopefully you'll find that inspiration here. These episodes are up for 24 hours, and then afterwards I post the highlight reel in my IGTV channel, and I also save all the full-length episodes, and you can get those on my blog, and I will post a link to those in my profile when we're done. So today I have on Martina, and Mary is a licensed clinical mental health counselor, and she's a former athlete of mine. I was her running coach for a little while, and so I've kind of seen her take this idea that she talked about and turn it into something, turn it into reality. And that idea was to go out on her own and open her own practice as a licensed clinical mental health counselor. So I'm really excited to talk to her today about like to go out on her own and what that journey was like and where she's at right now. So I'm really excited, hey, to have you come on and join me. How are you?
Good. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. It's kind of chilly today.
I know.
It does not feel like May.
No, not at all.
Good. Well, I kind of gave like just a very brief background, but if you want to tell us a little bit about kind of where you were working before, what your sort of background is, and then how you got to the point of where you wanted to open your own practice.
Yeah, so I moved up to New Hampshire 7-ish years ago now, and I got a job first at what's called Chase Home for Children, and it's a home where kids go when they are either having some emotional problems or maybe their parents are struggling a little bit. And then after that, I went and I got a job at a local community mental health center, and I was there for 6 years, and I did every job underneath the sun. I was a therapist. I went to people's homes. I was a manager at one point. I worked in the hospitals. Yeah, and then I had a lot of personal life stuff happen, and I kind of always just knew I wanted to be out on my own, but finally was just not happy, and a lot of people were telling me that that I wasn't but you know when you're not happy and you're like, yeah, I'm fine, but it takes like a breaking point to definitely just like tip you over. And for me, it was after I ran my first ever 50K out in Montana, and I got back from that trip and I just knew I could not continue to live this life that I was living because it didn't feel like mine anymore. So I actually, we missed the bus by 10 minutes and I just broke down ugly crying in the airport, and my partner was like, what? There's going to be another bus. You're going to be okay. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I can't do this. I can't wait any longer to be this person that I know that I am and I know that I want to be.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said about like when the people around us can sort of see that we're unhappy, but we can't see it ourselves. So
Yeah.
what was that moment of sort of realization that happened for you where you're like, I'm unhappy? Like, what was that moment like where you're like, something has to change?
So for me, it like came in little spurts. So I had that moment in September of 2018, and then like over time, things that I used to just very much enjoy doing, they didn't bring me happiness anymore. And then I would come home and just be depleted, and like I wasn't reading anymore. I took a break from running because I had just run the longest I'd ever done, but it wasn't the same. The fire was not there at all to like get out the door any time of day, which was really weird. Um, so, and it was more this like kind of like lackluster for things, you know, like I wasn't kitchen dancing, and I was like, something's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's like when we make a big decision, a lot of times it's like these little things that sort of build up over time to that, like you said, that tipping point of like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna do.
Yeah. And
So go
started
ahead.
talking. Oh, sorry. So I started talking to my boss at the time about like that I just wasn't feeling it anymore. And then I was getting married in January, and we're very fortunate that I can go on my husband's health insurance. And I just like I think finally just something clicked, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this for another year. Like I'm just gonna start putting the pieces together to get myself to where I want to be.
Mhm. So what did that pathway look like? Like, how did you set up your plan of like your exit strategy from where you were to like building this new thing?
Yeah. So I got pretty lucky, and I found almost like an interim job. That's not what it was called, but UNH was looking for a part-time therapist for the spring semester this year, and I got that job. So I worked that 3 days a week, which gave me 2 days a week, well, plus the weekends to work on my business.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave me like a stable income and forced my hand into private practice. So
Mm-hmm.
I just would continuously ask myself, like, what's the next thing I have to do, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
is it, apply for the business? Is it save money? Is it stay up all night working on my website? Like, whatever it is, I
Yeah.
would just look for the next thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, just in general, in terms of like life advice, that's like such a true thing for everything. It's like if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling kind of unhappy, it's like asking yourself that question of like, what's the next thing that I can do to move me forward? Like, no matter how small the step is, like, even if it's not a step and it's more of like a lean,
Yeah.
yeah, like, what is it that I can do to just keep that momentum, keep that forward progress? Um,
Right.
so how did the pieces sort of and how did you build momentum and how did the pieces kind of start to come together?
Well, I think that I'm still very much building momentum because so I opened my doors technically. So I started the like building of the practice in January, and I opened my doors in April. So I'm really
Mhm.
still building momentum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I like shockingly to myself, which is hilarious. I have been seeing like on my roster, I have 17 clients, which is a lot for 2 months,
Fantastic.
right? Like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean,
Um,
you've been in business a month, basically, right?
yeah,
A little
right.
over a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what I've been doing is working, but I still feel like I'm still building momentum and
Hmm.
still trying to like there's things that I get so scared to do, like go tell the doctor's offices that I can see their clients. But I like just kind of go like, oh, no, like I can't do that. And
Yeah.
it's silly because I can do that and I will
Yeah.
do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to build momentum other than to just like keep chipping away and
Yeah.
like forcing myself to do things that seem out of my reach, even though they're not. That
Yeah.
nothing has been out of my reach yet.
Hmm. Yeah. That's so true. Like, I think when you're when you go into business for yourself and when you start like following the plan that you've made and doing those next steps, you're eventually you come across something that you really don't want to do. That's
Yeah.
way outside your comfort zone. And there's always hesitation. But I think if you can break through that hesitation, the place that you end up and the skills and the confidence that you gain,
Right.
like it carries you to the next scary thing. And then that carries you to the next scary thing. And like, then you start to really like feel just competent and confident in what you have to offer.
Yeah, I keep telling myself like the me 5 years from now is going to look back and like just be so proud of myself for continuing on the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to take care of my future self. Like
Yeah.
that's the way to get through the tough days right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So what have been some of maybe the obstacles that you've faced so far that have been, or maybe obstacles that you kind of see coming down the pipeline that have been difficult?
Yeah. So silly, or like they seem silly now, right? So like opening my first bank account, I didn't do that for till like February or something, and I just kept putting it off because I didn't know how to open a bank account. And so I went in and I was super awkward, and now I go in every week to see the ladies because I like to talk to them versus like mobile, right? And it's so fine, it's so okay, right? And I'm not awkward anymore. So that was something that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But things like keeping boundaries around my work hours are not something I foresaw as a problem, right?
Yeah.
I actually like to work, so I will just, it's so addicting to build your business. There's always something I can do. And at the same time, I have so much more free time. So I've been busier than I've ever been, but I also have a lot more free time. It's this weird like thing that I'm navigating.
Yeah, for sure. Because sometimes when you take out like the other pieces that were part of like your like a job working for someone, you take out those pieces, but then you have all these other newer responsibilities that you didn't have before. It can be hard to kind of navigate that. So how do you set up boundaries around work so that you aren't doing it constantly?
Yeah. I'm still figuring that out for sure. My husband's helpful. He's super helpful. He has an alternative work schedule, so he'll work like 24 hours and then he'll be off and then he'll work 24 more hours. So when he's home, he's really like good about like, no, it's time for dinner, or like, why don't you work from home for a little bit? And then I don't end up as doing as much work as when I go to my office, which is good. And then when he's not here, I get to work all day and nobody says anything to me. So we're working on it.
You balance each other out, sounds like.
Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So you specialize in a couple different areas, but maybe you could talk a little bit about sort of your specialty and like why you're drawn to those particular things.
Yeah, so I work with women mostly. I do have some men that I work with, but mostly I work with women 18 and older, and women who have kind of lost that like gut feeling of their lives is like a good way to put it, right? Like we just get so overwhelmed, or we build these to-do lists and we're at the very bottom, we're not even on there at all. And I help women come back home to themselves is kind of how, like what my tagline is, because life happens, right? And one of the areas that I specialize in is perinatal mood disorders. And because that's a time when there's so much going on for women, and it's so easy to lose yourself, right? Because all of a sudden you're like, I'm responsible. And yes, you are, and nothing's going to change that. But we also need to take care of ourselves too. And I'm just drawn to that because we also, as women, don't necessarily talk about it, and I've seen it in my friends, I've seen it in my family, and just I want to give back and help build a community to support that hasn't necessarily been there before. Yeah,
I think whether it's like, I mean, I've dealt with prenatal anxiety, postpartum depression, like both those things are so, you have a tendency to feel really isolated. And then also you're so busy with like either you have multiple children and you just added another one, or it's your
Right.
first, no clue what you're doing, it's
Right.
really hard to be like, oh, and I'm going to schedule an appointment with a therapist.
Right.
So, what, like, how do you explain, like, or stress the importance of, like, taking care of yourself first? Like, what would you say to that?
So I do free consult calls with all of my clients first, where we talk about barriers to therapy. We talk about, like we make sure our schedules match up. We talk about reasons why they want to come in, and I tell them how I see myself as being helpful to their specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, I mean, that's how we address that, right? Is like one, like congrats for just even making a phone call, right?
Yeah.
That's huge. And Relief Parenting in Hampton is newly opened this year.
Okay.
And they actually, so I'm seeing clients, women with perinatal mood disorders out of there on Wednesdays is what I'm trying to get out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And they have actually childcare there, which is super helpful.
That's
Yeah.
so fantastic.
Yeah. So that's like a really good way that I can help people by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's definitely, like, it's always so easy to hone in on the barriers to anything, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's starting your own business. Like, it's so
Right.
easy to see the obstacles. So how, like, for yourself, like in your own experience, like how do you sort of break down the obstacles and maybe deal with any like inner critic to actually like move forward in what you really want to do?
Yeah, so I have to remind myself that everybody has an inner critic, right? And I can like feed that thought process, or I can just kind of let it be there. So I'm probably a little bit different in the sense where I don't try to stifle my inner critic. Meaning like I'm not just gonna bury it, but I will say like, okay, I see you. I guess you're here with me today. Like, I guess I didn't put on my confidence this morning. Like, if you're going to be here, I have to do this work. So how are we going to manage that? Right. Like I'll talk to it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then also just letting myself take breaks. Like some days, if I can't write the perfect website copy, then I'm just going to leave that there. And there's always something else I can work on. Right. Or, yeah, I'm really fortunate that my best friend also, she's a realtor in DC. So she's going through this process with me simultaneously.
Neat.
Yeah, so she just has been very helpful to like, I'll be like, hey, I'm having a day like that. It's just not going to happen, right? Like no client's ever going to call me and like, what am I doing? Why am I here? And she's like, it's okay. Like tomorrow will be better. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good to have some support like that, because it's true. Like, I mean, I have days like that so frequently. It's like kind of embarrassing.
Right.
That it's like where I feel like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't working. Like, I should just quit.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard to work through those moments by yourself. So it's so important to have like a support system. So in addition to your friend who happens to be kind of going through a similar journey, who are some of the other people that you kind of surround yourself with, or where else do you find support?
Yeah. So my husband's been super supportive, and his work, like all the guys at his work are actually like really great just to bounce ideas off of. And I don't have like a hanging sign yet. And every time I see them, they're like, where's your sign? Gotta get your sign. How are people going to find you?
That's great.
So that's great. And then the other therapists on the Seacoast have been so wonderful. They answer all of my questions, and I have a lot of questions. Or they'll, something that I didn't think of, like, hey, do you work on Memorial Day? Like, should I do that? Question mark.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, they'll give me their opinion. And so that's been really great. And then I joined, I pay to be part of this thing called Abundance Party, which is run by a therapist in North Carolina who helps other therapists build their practice. So,
oh, wow, that's fantastic.
Like, Yeah, so I use them a lot as well because I was like, I need some kind of coach. I'm really proud that I haven't gone into debt to start my business,
That's fantastic.
which has been huge, but it also was limiting, right? So like
Mhm.
I necessarily at this moment in time didn't have the money for a private coach, but this group was a good compromise.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. And I think it's so, because then your growth is really organic and not sort of beyond your reach. You're not going to overextend yourself. I think it's so important to, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with like raising capital and taking out loans and things like that, but I think it's, first of all, it's such a good education. You learn
Yeah.
so much, and then also I think you just think a little bit differently when it's like your own money, and you know you're
Right.
investing in yourself and you've got to make it work, and then also the risk is not as high because
Yeah,
you don't have a loan hanging over your head. So I
for
think
sure.
it's such a smart way to go, from the beginning, for sure. So as you are kind of in so many different roles, like you're writing web copy and you're seeing clients and you're
Yeah.
sort of managing the financial aspect of your business, like that's a lot of different hats to wear. So how do you kind of stay grounded, stay sort of, how do you manage the stress? Are there any sort of rituals or like habits that you have that you feel like just kind of keep you aligned and at peace?
Yeah. So I kind of like ebb and flow with habits. I like to make seasonal habits. Um, oh,
Which I think is so smart because like otherwise it feels like a resolution and you're like, oh,
yeah.
January,
Oh,
you
I
know.
didn't do it. Yeah. Yeah. So I just recently got back into writing a it's like both a to-do list and a daily like gratitude slash I am statements. So I'll start with my like at least three things that I'm grateful for. Then I do I am, and since I recently got married, I started we are because I'm
Oh, I
trying.
love that.
Yeah, I'm.
That's so
Sorry, my
great.
dog just walked in the room. Yes, because I'm trying to get used to the concept of like, oh, I'm also a we. Yeah. So that's been good. And then I write why underneath, which changes every day, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I write like, what's one thing I have to do today? What's the rest of the things I have to do today? And that's like really helpful to keep me like grounded every day.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. I like that because I think like if you tend towards the personality, like the list making personality, like it can be so
Mm-hmm.
tempting to just kind of like I have to differentiate between like the brain dump and then like what I can actually accomplish in a day. Because if I make a big list and
Yeah.
and it's actually like a brain dump,
Right.
then I'm like, I'm gonna get this all done today, then my expectations are like far exceeding the reality of what I can actually accomplish. And then at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you set yourself up to kind of feel like a failure, basically.
Uh-huh. Because you didn't do the things that weren't
Yeah.
realistic in the first place.
Yeah. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that you bring in too, like in the same proximity, because for me, I actually like I've got the planner and I've got the journal, but I think it would be good if I brought some of the things from the journal to the planner
Yeah.
because, and I know that there are tons of like planners out there that do that, but I think it's good to have the gratitude and the I am statements kind of along with next to what you're hoping to accomplish that day. I think that's kind of brings a healthy perspective to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. And the other thing I just started doing again, which I find that I do better in spring and summer, is that I do like 5-minute meditations every day. And I like what's funny for me is that when I'm seeing more clients, the better I am about meditating. But when I don't see more clients, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. That's good.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and then I do run. As you said in the beginning, I like my relationship with running is changing, and I'm trying to just figure that out right now. I still have goals, but they're not goals in the next 2 years. So I'm just supporting my our friend who's doing the Vermont 100, and I'm so just doing runs with her whenever I can.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I actually think that the supporting other runners and like cheering on the other side of the race is actually more fun and more fun sometimes.
It's different for sure, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I because I feel more of a sense of responsibility of like, I have to be healthy enough to run with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So kind of moving forward, I mean, you've got this kind of baby business, but like you're really flourishing. So what are some of the goals that you have like for yourself in the next year or 5, 10 years, whatever, like whatever timeline you're kind of thinking on right now? Like where do you see bee counseling going?
Yeah. So I mean, like my sweeping, like shameless goal is that in the next 5 years, I want to be the leading therapist in perinatal mood disorders in the Seacoast. Like, that's what I'm gunning for.
Yeah.
But to that, I also have aspirations of doing like running therapy, which I would not do without the work of a coach as well. But there's so much that comes up on runs. So to be able to run with my clients, I know would just open doors and people would get better fast and not just sure. So that's something that's in my head, but I don't know the timeline on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think for the first year of business, I'm just like, let's just keep the business sustaining the business, and that I will be, obviously I want to strive for more, but I will be happy in that space and grateful in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love that that you're interested in the going into like postpartum, prenatal, all that stuff. What is it about that I mean, you kind of talked a little bit previously, but what is it about that you feel like you bring sort of personally or just like in terms of your own interests that really makes that the thing that you want to focus on?
Well, it has all of the parts of everything that I'm interested in, right? So like sleep, hormones, nutrition, change in your life, just like in you and the baby, and then you and your partner, right? So like a little bit of couples therapy, managing like your sense of self. And then sometimes women who are postpartum actually get psychosis, which I'm very comfortable working with people in psychosis. Like I don't know. I have this ability, this sounds weird for me to say out loud, but like I have this ability
own it.
yeah, to just be like, I'm very comfortable around people who are in a psychotic episode. And I'm also just very comfortable around people in the sense of I very much honor who the person is. And I can really understand, like, in a non-putting you down way. Like, I'm very empathetic. I'm a very sensitive person, which is good in the sense that I can really be in tune with people. It means I have to take care of myself a lot more. But, and I just want, like, I don't want women to have to feel alone and, like, for something that's perfectly normal. Like, you've never, or even if you've had kids, you've never had this pregnancy, right? Like, it's normal to feel weird, and how do you navigate that? And that, yeah. And we don't live in small communities anymore where, like, everyone took care of the baby, you know?
It's so true. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, so few people have the support of their mother or their grandmother or aunts, or, you know, like we don't have that sort of family community. And then a lot of times, you know, if we've moved somewhere for a job, we don't have that close-knit community who can make you meals and bring you meals over, or you know, help out in different ways. So I think it's so important for women to just recognize that they need that support, and then also, like you said, like feel like it's normal and feel like it's okay to get that support for themselves. So yeah, I'm here for it. I'm so excited that's what you want to specialize in and just really like pour yourself into. I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited too.
Well, if people want to get a hold of you and find you, either like your office or online, make an appointment, all that stuff, where can people find you, social media and online?
Yeah, so b.counseling is my Instagram handle. And marymartina.com is my website. And from my website, people can just actually schedule a consult from there. A consult call if you're in the area. My office is located in Dover. And then on Wednesdays, I do have office hours in Hampton at Relief Parenting.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's so exciting, and it's so fun to talk to someone who's like so fresh in the process, because some of the women who I've had on have sort of been at whatever they're doing for a little while. So it's kind of fun to just like get the insider view on like kind of the blooming of your business. So
yeah, it is a baby business. I love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was really fun.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Fantastic rest of your day.
You too.
So that's really such a good, fun conversation. I love these little chats because each woman who I've talked to is at a different place doing something different. And but there are definitely like some themes that weave through. I think one of them is like this sort of realization of being unhappy is sort of has been like a universal catalyst for change that I've seen in all the conversations that I've had so far on this live show. And then I think just it always seems to come back to this idea of forward motion in any form, whether it's a big step or a small step or a lean or whatever it is, just always looking for the next thing to move forward with. And I mean, it's certainly advice that I need to take daily is to just focus on like, what can you do today? Like, what's the one small thing that you can do today? It doesn't have to be massive change. It doesn't have to be anything groundbreaking, but what can you do today to move you forward towards your goal? So I think that applies to just so many things in life. But thanks so much to Mary for joining us, and thanks to our sponsor for today, which is Trigger Pin. Trigger Pin is a foam roller that's made here in New Hampshire by a local business, and it is my favorite foam roller. They were a sponsor for Rise Run Retreat, the retreat that I host annually. And it's my sore muscles, cranky muscles is what I use. I'm giving one away today on my Instagram profile. So if you want to enter the giveaway, you can head over there and just pop a few friends in the comments, and those are your entries. And if you want to just skip the giveaway and know that you want one and you want to get one at a discount, you can use code RUNFAR at tpinmuscletherapy.com, and that will grab you a Trigger Pin for 10% off. So next week we're taking a break. It is our 15th wedding anniversary next week, so I'm kind of clearing my schedule and not coming on for the Instagram live show next week. But the following week I will be back on with Rebecca McGowan, who is a park ranger and also helper extraordinaire at Rise Run Retreat. She has been on my staff for the last 2 years when we host the retreat up in Woodstock. She's going to come on. She is a park ranger based at the Marsh Billings Rockefeller National Park in Woodstock, Vermont. And I'm excited to talk to her because she is so passionate about what she does. And it's going to be a really fun conversation with her. So that'll be on June 12th. You can join us then. But next week we'll be off for a little break, but we'll be back soon. So you can catch this full episode. Will be up on my website probably Friday, as well as the Instagram TV highlights. That'll be up on Friday too. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week.